It all began on a rainy Monday morning, the kind of morning where the sky seemed to grieve and the air hung heavy with silence. Crestfall High was already bustling with students, the dull chatter and scraping of lockers echoing through its time-worn halls. Most days started the same: laughter from the popular crowd, whispers from the outcasts, and the mechanical rhythm of routine. But that day was different. That day brought her. She walked through the front doors without a word, her black boots soaked and squeaking softly against the tiled floor. Her clothes were simple but strange: an old grey hoodie a few sizes too big, sleeves covering her hands completely, and dark jeans that looked thrifted but clean. Her backpack was small, worn, and seemed to carry more weight than its size could explain. Her hair, a curtain of jet black strands, fell forward, obscuring her face. But even hidden behind that curtain, she radiated something unsettling. No one had heard about a new transfer. Crestfall High didn't just accept new students in the middle of the semester, especially not without some kind of administrative buzz. And yet there she was, standing in the center of the school's polished foyer, her eyes locked on the main bulletin board, as if searching for something or someone. Whispers started immediately. The first to notice were the juniors by the lockers near the guidance office. "Who is she?" one of them muttered. "Must be some charity case," sneered another, trying to impress a group of cheerleaders with her cruelty. But she ignored it all. Her gaze never faltered. Not once, not even when a basketball flung across the hall by a group of senior boys nearly hit her shoulder. She caught it mid-air without even turning her head, then placed it gently on the ground and continued walking. What made her more unsettling wasn't her silence. It was the air around her. The way people instinctively stepped aside as she passed, like shadows bowing before darkness. Even the teachers, usually quick to welcome newcomers, hesitated. Mr. Langford, the vice principal, paused when she handed him a folded slip of paper. He scanned it briefly, his brow tightening. Without a word, he nodded and led her down the west hallway, the wing of the school where most of the problematic students were assigned. Her name was not announced on the intercom. There was no introduction, no welcome, just silence. In room 2B, her new homeroom, the students had already started their usual morning chaos. The class clown, Darren, was imitating their strict math teacher again. Rachel and Chloe, the queens of Crestfall High, were loudly gossiping about a party. And then she walked in. Everything stopped. The teacher, Mrs. Barnes, cleared her throat. "Class, we have a new student joining us. Please, welcome." She looked down at the file she had barely opened. Evelyn Black. No one said anything. Not a greeting, not a joke. Just that crushing silence again, thick and cold. Evelyn took a seat in the last row near the window. She didn't look at anyone. She didn't pull out a notebook. She didn't so much as blink when Rachel turned and smirked, whispering something to Chloe that made them both giggle. By lunch, Evelyn had become the center of attention. Not in a good way. Rumors began to circulate. Some said she had been expelled from her last school for fighting. Others swore she'd spent time in a juvenile facility. There was even one particularly cruel theory that she didn't have parents and lived in a shelter. The truth, no one knew. But Evelyn didn't bother correcting any of it. She sat alone in the cafeteria, untouched tray before her, eyes staring through the window as rain drizzled down the glass. When the group of popular boys tried to test her with petty mockery, she didn't flinch. When Rachel bumped her table accidentally, spilling juice onto her hoodie, Evelyn simply stood, walked away, and never looked back. It was this composure, this eerie stillness, that made people talk. There was something deeper behind those dark eyes, something that not even the teachers could explain. By the end of the day, a strange tension had wrapped itself around the school like a noose. Everyone had seen her, everyone had talked about her, but no one knew anything. Not where she came from, not why she transferred, not even what her voice sounded like. Principal Myers, an older man known for his sternness, watched her through the window of his office as she waited for her ride. His secretary leaned in and whispered, "She gives me chills." He nodded slowly. "She's not like the others." Then the black car pulled up, sleek, silent, windows tinted so dark they looked like obsidian. Evelyn walked to it with steady steps, opened the back door, and vanished inside without looking back. No one noticed the license plate. No one dared ask questions, but that night the gossip threads lit up. Photos were posted. Theories exploded. Evelyn Black had arrived, and by morning Crestfall High would never be the same again. She wasn't just a mystery. She was a storm waiting to break, and every storm has a purpose. It took less than 48 hours for curiosity to curdle into cruelty. By the second day, Evelyn Black was no longer just a strange new girl. She had become a disruption to the carefully controlled social ecosystem of Crestfall High. Her silence wasn't just unnerving anymore, it was threatening, especially to those who ruled that world with manicured iron fists. Rachel Whitmore and Chloe Stansfield were more than just popular. They were legacy, daughters of board members, models in local catalogs, social media influencers with curated lives. Crestfall was their kingdom, and they wore invisible crowns no one dared to challenge until Evelyn walked in and ignored their throne entirely. Rachel didn't like being ignored. It started in the library. Evelyn had found a corner table, far from the others, where the smell of old pages lingered and the hum of fluorescent lights filled the silence. She sat there every day after lunch, fingers gliding over aged paperbacks as if searching for something hidden between the lines. One afternoon, Rachel strutted in with Chloe and two other girls, their heels clicking like warning shots. They laughed, louder than usual. Their perfume cut through the musty air like a blade. Rachel's eyes found Evelyn, and a slow, predatory smile crept across her lips. "Look who's reading again," she cooed, sauntering over. "Tell me, Evelyn, are you studying how to speak, or are you just trying to be spooky and mysterious on purpose?" Evelyn didn't look up. She turned a page. Rachel snatched the book from her hands. Silence. "You think you're better than us?" Rachel said, flipping through the pages. "You think being quiet makes you special?" Still no response. Rachel leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. "This is Crestfall. We chew up girls like you." Evelyn met her gaze for the first time. Her eyes were darker than night. Not angry, not scared, just unreadable. Rachel hesitated, just for a second, but in that moment something shifted. Evelyn took back the book, closed it softly, and stood. She walked away without a word. That night, a photo of Evelyn appeared on Chloe's story. Grainy, unflattering, captioned, "Witch alert, who let her out of the asylum?" The comments were worse. By morning, lockers had been vandalized with lipstick messages. "Mute girl, psycho." One desk had the word "freak" scratched into the wood. Evelyn's. She never flinched, never cried. Not even when her seat was smeared with jelly. Not even when Rachel accidentally spilled her vanilla latte onto Evelyn's only notebook. That infuriated them. Their tactics escalated. During gym class, Rachel arranged for Evelyn to be partnered with Sarah Mills, a timid freshman desperate for approval. They were supposed to practice trust falls. Evelyn closed her eyes, let herself fall. Sarah stepped aside. Evelyn hit the ground with a sickening thud. Laughter erupted. Only one person didn't laugh. Mrs. Keene, the gym teacher, who turned away too quickly, pretending she hadn't seen. Evelyn stood slowly, dusted herself off. Her elbow was bleeding, but she didn't ask for help, didn't report it. She simply returned to the line and waited for the next activity, but not everyone was blind. Noah, a quiet student who spent more time sketching monsters in his notebook than talking to anyone, had seen it all. He approached Evelyn after class, awkward and unsure. "They shouldn't have done that," he muttered. Evelyn looked at him, not with gratitude, but with a curious tilt of her head. "Why do you care?" she asked. Her voice was soft, deep, and surprisingly calm. Noah blinked. "Because it's wrong." Evelyn nodded once. "They'll learn." Those two words lingered in Noah's mind long after she walked away. They'll learn. By the end of the week, Rachel orchestrated the final blow. It was Chloe's birthday, and a massive party was planned at her parents' estate. Everyone who was anyone would be there. Invitations were hand-delivered, except one. Rachel made sure Evelyn received a glittering envelope. Inside was a note. "Come see how real girls party." Against all odds, Evelyn showed up. She arrived wearing the same hoodie, same jeans. No makeup, no heels, no entourage. Just Evelyn, silent and still, standing in the middle of opulence she didn't belong to. Laughter broke out before she even crossed the threshold. Rachel met her at the door with a tray of drinks. "So glad you came," she said sweetly. "Let's celebrate." What followed was a symphony of humiliation, intentional and cruel. The drink was spiked. The floor was slick with soap. A spotlight was turned on her during a fake dance-off. And when Evelyn tripped, landing hard on her side, the room erupted in applause. Rachel leaned down, phone recording, and whispered, "Now you know your place." But Evelyn didn't react. She stood, fixed her hood, and looked directly into the camera. Not broken, not humiliated, just watching. Later that night, the video was uploaded. By morning, it was gone, wiped from every account, every phone. Rachel screamed at her followers. Chloe panicked. No one knew what happened, but from that day forward things began to change. Not loudly, not quickly, but like a tide, rising, pulling, dragging. The bullies had made first contact, and they didn't realize they had just awakened something that would not stay quiet forever. To understand what Evelyn Black was up against, one must first understand them. The clique that ran Crestfall High like a silent syndicate. On the surface, they were golden children. Top grades, perfect smiles, community service medals pinned to their designer blazers. But beneath the polished sheen was a network of quiet terror, a system built on fear, compliance, and unspoken rules. At the center of it all stood Rachel Whitmore. Rachel wasn't just a popular girl. She was the daughter of Edgar Whitmore, chairman of the school board, donor of the new science lab, and personal friend of Principal Myers. Her position wasn't earned, it was inherited. But Rachel didn't rest on legacy alone. She studied power like a language. She knew who could be bought, who could be silenced, and most importantly, who could be controlled. Her inner circle was carefully curated. Chloe, the manipulator. Talia, the spy. Amber, the enforcer. And Devin, the golden boy, star athlete, future valedictorian, and, to many, the mask that made their empire look harmless. They called themselves nothing. They didn't need to. The school understood. If Rachel nodded, someone was shunned. If Chloe whispered, secrets were exposed. If Amber smiled, someone bled. But their power wasn't built on fists. It was built on secrets and favors. Teachers knew better than to cross them. One incident in sophomore year had cemented that truth. Mr. Reynolds, a young literature teacher, once dared to give Rachel a B- on a critical essay. The next week, the school received an anonymous tip. Mr. Reynolds had been seen drinking. In his car after hours, a bottle was found in his desk. He was suspended, then quietly replaced. No one ever questioned Rachel's grades again. Mrs. Keene, the gym teacher, turned a blind eye to locker room cruelty. In exchange, her son, a struggling student, suddenly found himself on the honor roll. Chloe had a cousin who edited transcripts. The cafeteria supervisor, Mr. Dolan, allowed the clique to cut lines, reserve tables, and mock others with impunity. In return, Rachel's mother lobbied for his raise at the next board meeting. Principal Myers, he was more complex. To the outside world, he was stern, fair, respected, but in truth, Myers had long since surrendered to the machine. Rachel's father funded half the school's renovations. His own career had been saved twice by Edgar's legal connections. And Rachel played the dutiful student well, straight-A transcripts, class president. She even led the anti-bullying committee. He never asked questions, never saw bruises, never heard crying, because silence was easy. Silence kept his office door shut and his name clean. The school operated under what students called the Bullies. Code, a set of unwritten laws that everyone knew, no one spoke of, and everyone obeyed. Rule 1, if you're not useful, you're expendable. Rule 2, loyalty is everything. Betray it and you're done. Rule 3, if something happens, you didn't. See it. Rule 4, if Rachel smiles, agree. If she glares, apologize. Rule 5, don't talk to the targets. Their misfortune might become yours. This culture infected everything. Group projects were rigged. Nominations for student awards were whispered into the right ears. Hall passes could be bought with gossip. Detention could be avoided with a well-timed photo of someone else misbehaving. Power wasn't visible at Crestfall. It was ambient, like a gas leak, unseen, but deadly. And for those who tried to rise above it, there were always consequences. Natalie Green, a junior, once stood up for a bullied freshman during lunch. The next day, her locker was filled with dead rats. A week later, she transferred schools. Marcus Dean refused to laugh when Devin mocked a special needs student. His tires were slashed 2 nights later. No one saw who did it. The cameras malfunctioned. It wasn't just the clique that maintained control. It was the system around them. Teachers feared them, staff resented them, students envied them. And together they created a balance that no one dared disturb. Until Evelyn, because Evelyn didn't play the game. She didn't cower, she didn't flinch, and worst of all, she didn't react. Rachel couldn't stand it. The clique tried everything: public, humiliation, exclusion, mockery, but Evelyn absorbed it all like a black hole, offering no satisfaction, no submission, no fear. She existed outside their rules, and that made her dangerous. Whispers began to spread, not from Evelyn, but about her. Some said she'd hacked the school network. Others swore she knew secrets about Rachel's past. One rumor claimed Evelyn had once lived in the same town where Rachel's cousin disappeared. None of it was confirmed, but in a school ruled by suggestion, rumors were just as powerful as truth. Behind closed doors, the clique debated what to do. Chloe suggested planting something in Evelyn's locker, drugs maybe. Devin offered to scare her. Amber said they should frame her for theft, but Rachel said no. "Wait," she murmured. "Let her dig her own grave. She'll slip." What Rachel didn't understand, what none of them understood, was that Evelyn wasn't slipping. She was watching, learning, measuring every crack in their empire. And when the time came, she wouldn't need to expose them. They would expose themselves. One by one. There is a threshold between tolerance and vengeance, a line so thin it often goes unnoticed until it's far behind you. At Crestfall High, Evelyn Black danced on that line daily, and no one seemed to realize it. To most, she appeared indifferent. No matter what they did to her, no matter how vicious or humiliating, she remained calm, too calm. Her face never flushed with anger, her hands never trembled, her eyes, cold and unblinking, gave away nothing. But in that silence, there was movement. It was subtle, the way she observed, the way she memorized. She watched people the way predators study prey, not with hunger, but with patience. Calculated patience, and with every prank, every whisper, every trap they laid, Evelyn didn't break. She noted, she archived. When Rachel poured ink into her locker, Evelyn didn't react. She merely cleaned it up after hours, alone, using gloves. Later, Rachel's locker jammed. The janitor found it flooded with bleach. No one claimed responsibility. Rachel assumed it was a glitch. When Amber pushed Evelyn in the hall and made her drop her books, Evelyn knelt down quietly, collected her belongings and moved on. The next morning, Amber's phone wouldn't turn on. It had overheated and fried overnight. Coincidence, they said. Chloe noticed it first. "She's not normal," she told Rachel one afternoon, nervously biting her nail. "It's like she's playing us and we don't even know the rules." But Rachel laughed it off. "She's a loser, a mute. Don't give her credit." Still, the unease began to spread. Noah, who had spoken to Evelyn just once, became increasingly drawn to her. He started to sketch her, not out of fascination, but out of compulsion. Each drawing looked more intense than the last. Evelyn with a shadow behind her, Evelyn with smoke swirling around her feet, Evelyn standing over a crumbling school. "I think she's waiting," he said once to his sister. "Waiting for something to happen. Or maybe for something to start happening." Teachers too started to feel it. Mrs. Barnes found herself glancing over at Evelyn during lessons, sensing her eyes on her even when her head was down. Mr. Calloway reported strange anomalies in his attendance sheets, names erased and replaced. Times shifted, but no one else saw the changes. The power grid in the East Wing flickered intermittently. Emails disappeared from staff inboxes. One counselor, Ms. Ferguson, swore that someone had reset her login credentials 3 times in 1 week. 8 found no trace. Through it all, Evelyn kept her routine. She sat at the same table in the library, always alone. She walked the same path to class, always silent. She never smiled, never cried, never raised her voice. But her eyes were evolving. What once seemed like numbness began to feel like calculation. They were no longer blank, they were cataloging. And behind that distant stare, something darker churned. It was like standing on the shore and realizing the still water before you wasn't calm. It was deep, so deep, it devoured light. No one dared speak to her anymore, not even the teachers. The whispers continued, but now they carried a different tone. She's not right. She's hiding something. She knows things. One day someone left a handmade doll in Evelyn's locker, a cruel joke, its hair cut to match hers, its eyes burned out. Evelyn picked it up, examined it, and placed it back in the locker. The next day it was gone. A week later, the girl who made it slipped in the hallway, breaking her wrist. No witnesses, no cameras, no explanation. Evelyn walked past her hospital bed the next morning, her eyes glancing once, briefly, as if checking. Something off a list. No one else saw that moment, except the principal. Myers had grown increasingly unsettled. He watched Evelyn more closely now, reviewing her records, digging into her transfer file. But every time he opened her folder, the documents looked off. Sections redacted, dates misaligned. He called the district. They said her records were sealed under emergency transfer protocol. "What emergency?" he asked. They wouldn't answer. He began to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Powerless. That afternoon, he stood by the window of his office and watched Evelyn walking toward the gate after school. Rain fell lightly. Again, just like the day she arrived, but this time she didn't seem alone. Her shadow stretched unnaturally long behind her. Her steps matched some internal rhythm no one else could hear, and in that moment, Principal Myers understood. Evelyn Black was not enduring the storm. She was the storm, a quiet tempest wrapped in teenage skin, and the longer they mistook her calm for weakness, the closer they came to unleashing what she had been bottling up all along, because silence is not always surrender. Sometimes it's the sharpest blade of all. Principal Margaret Myers had worked in education for over 30 years. She had seen troubled students, brilliant ones, dangerous ones, kids who lied, kids who cried, kids who fell apart in front of her desk. But Evelyn Black wasn't like any of them. There was something off about her, not in the way she spoke, which was rare, or how she moved, which was deliberate, but in the way the air shifted when she was near. How eyes followed her, but no one ever met her gaze. How her presence lingered long after she left a room. Myers had ignored it at first. What was she going to say? That a 16-year-old made her uneasy? That she felt watched in her own office? But the feeling grew. Then came the incidents. Subtle, strange, untraceable. The security cameras outside room 2B blacked out for 3 days in a row. Student complaints disappeared from the database. The school counselor, Mr. Dwight, claimed his files were accessed, but the logs showed nothing. It all pointed back to Evelyn. So Myers did what no one else had dared. She opened Evelyn's file, or tried to. In the school's central database, Evelyn's profile was remarkably thin. Name, date of birth, transfer date. No academic history, no disciplinary notes, no photos. Just a single red-tagged entry labeled Restricted Emergency Transfer, Level 4. That phrase meant nothing to her, so she called the district office. After 3 transfers, 1 hold, and a disconnected line, she reached someone who recognized. "The tag! You're not supposed to access that," the voice said flatly. "I'm the principal," Myers replied, voice tightening. "I'm responsible for every student here." Silence. Then, "The file is sealed under administrative directive. You need clearance from the board." "What board?" More silence. Then a click. They hung up. That night she couldn't sleep. Her instincts, honed over decades, told her something was deeply wrong. So she went analog. She dug through the old archives in the basement storage room, a place most administrators avoided. Dust choked the shelves. Old student records, staff evaluations, and emergency reports were stacked in disorganized piles. It took her 3 hours to find what she was looking for. An intake folder from the Department of Student Reallocation. No digital traces, no searchable data, just paper. And inside, a thin envelope marked EB, Immediate Transfer Authorization. She opened it. The first page was a report, redacted heavily, lines blacked out as if with urgency. But what? Remained told a story. Student involved in behavioral incident resulting in injury of 3 students and 1 staff member. Circumstances deemed anomalous. No charges filed. Medical assessments inconclusive. Staff at prior institution deemed unsafe. Parental or guardian contact unavailable. Custody reassigned temporarily to department. It didn't make sense. There were no names, no locations, no dates. Just that one line in the middle of the page highlighted in yellow. Subject demonstrates high emotional suppression under duress, accompanied by strategic responsiveness. Potential psychological manipulation. Observed. Myers felt a chill slide down her spine. She turned the page. There was a photo, faded and grainy. A hallway, flickering lights, a figure standing at the far end, Evelyn, unmistakable, head slightly tilted, hands at her sides. Around her, broken desks, shattered glass, overturned chairs, 3 students on the floor, a teacher slumped against the wall. No blood, but chaos. No expression on Evelyn's face, just stillness. The report ended with a brief note: reassignment recommended to low visibility institution. Monitor but do not engage. Subject shows signs of tactical awareness. Myers dropped the folder. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. She had allowed Evelyn to walk into Crestfall without warning, without oversight, without protection. Or maybe it wasn't Evelyn who needed protection. Maybe it was the rest of them. The next morning, Myers returned to school with a locked drawer in her office, the folder tucked inside. She watched Evelyn arrive through the blinds, her steps even, her posture calm, always calm, but this time their eyes met, and for the first time Myers saw something behind those dark irises. Recognition, not fear, not guilt, but the silent message of someone who knew what she had found and didn't care. No one else noticed. No one else felt it, but in that one shared glance, Principal Myers understood. Evelyn wasn't just here to escape something, she was here to finish something, and whatever it was had already begun. It began without warning. No grand gestures, no confrontations, no accusations, just silence, sharpened into a weapon, wielded with surgical precision. Evelyn Black didn't strike, she fractured. The first crack appeared in the most guarded place, the clique's trust. Chloe arrived at school one Monday to find her private messages printed and folded neatly into her locker. Not just any messages, but the ones she had sent to Rachel's boyfriend, Devin, flirtatious, secretive, dangerous. Rachel didn't confront her, not immediately, but her eyes said everything. By lunch, the table was split down the middle. Chloe sat slightly apart, her voice quieter than usual. Amber gave short answers. Devin looked anywhere but at Rachel. It was subtle, but Evelyn was watching. The next day, the projector in Mr. Calhoun's class malfunctioned. Instead of a slideshow on civil rights, a photo appeared, a screenshot of Amber's search history. It was filled with results on plagiarism. Everyone laughed. Amber turned crimson. She accused a classmate, then another. She never accused Evelyn. Why? Would she? Evelyn sat near the back, notebook closed, eyes forward, not a word. The day after that, the announcements over the intercom included a miscue. A short clip, barely 5 seconds, of Chloe and Rachel fighting in a hallway, recorded weeks earlier. Chloe had screamed, "I made you, Rachel," before storming off. By the time the clip cut, it was too late. The school had heard. Whispers rippled through every hallway like static. Laughter followed. The spell was breaking. Rachel tried to contain it, but control is a delicate thing. Once it slips, it's nearly impossible to reclaim. And the worst part, no one suspected Evelyn. She hadn't spoken against them, hadn't accused them, hadn't responded to their torments. She was the girl they mocked, not feared, the quiet one, the weak one. But weak girls don't rearrange friend groups. Weak girls don't reprogram announcements. Weak girls don't disappear security footage, then replace it with edited moments that shift blame and ignite suspicion. Rachel, for the first time in her life, started to doubt herself. She double-checked her backpack, locked her phone, whispered to Chloe again, for safety. But Chloe didn't respond the same way. Amber avoided eye contact. Devin missed practice without telling anyone. Something was wrong, very wrong, and it was spreading. A teacher, Mrs. Rowley, found her husband's arrest record printed out and pinned to her classroom door. She had no enemies, but she had once defended Rachel during a parent conference. The following morning, Evelyn received a note in her locker, typed. No signature, just a sentence, "I know what you're doing." She smiled, her first smile since arriving. That same afternoon, Devin was called to the principal's office. Someone had submitted an anonymous tip about his part-time job at the local bar, a violation of his school's athletic policy. His scholarship was under review. He stormed out of the school that day and never returned. Rachel, desperate now, tried to confront Evelyn in the hallway between periods. She blocked her path, eyes wide with frustration. "What do you want?" she snapped. Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "I want the truth," she said softly. Rachel faltered. "Truth about what?" Evelyn leaned in, her voice barely a whisper, the kind you bury in people. Rachel stepped back, shaken, because deep down she knew what Evelyn meant. It wasn't about the jokes, the pranks, or the parties. It was about the lies, the cruelty, the scars they left that no one ever saw, the ones behind the smiles and status and forced apologies. Evelyn was unearthing them, piece by piece. By week's end, the clique had splintered. Rachel was isolated, Chloe humiliated, Amber suspended for hacking into a teacher's email, an action she claimed she never took. Only Evelyn remained untouched, untouchable. She never raised her voice, never made a threat. But everything around her moved like chess pieces, and the final move was still to come. Principal Myers watched from her office, helpless. She knew Evelyn was behind it. She saw the pattern, the timing, the precision. But without proof, she was powerless. The school's golden children were unraveling, exposed not by force, but by their own actions, their own words, their own secrets. All Evelyn had done was turn on the light, and as the shadows scattered, the game of psychological warfare continued. Quiet, patient, inevitable. Everyone was speechless. But Evelyn was just getting started.